Welcome back to Fostering Communication, the show where we get honest about our people, our customers, and what it takes to serve like family. Today's episode's a good one, folks. Before Call Dad ever existed, there was SKY HVAC. And before I ever ran that company, today's guest helped build it.
The shaman finally healed it, took it from me.
Robert Hildreth is one of the original founders and owners of SKY HVAC, the business that I purchased back in 2017 and ultimately rebranded into Call Dad. This episode isn't about tactics, it isn't about KPIs, it's about origin and perspective. And it's about growth. We're going to talk about how SKY came to be, what Robert thought of me when I bought that business, and how his perspective has changed over the years with all the changes that we've made in this organization. From moving away from new construction to expanding into multi-markets and ultimately becoming Call Dad. Let's get into it.
No, you say goodbye.
No, you say it.
No, you say goodbye.
You say it.
No, I'm not going to say goodbye. You say goodbye.
I miss you.
Oh, I got to go.
Wait, don't go.
Hi.
You having fun?
I love what you've done to the place. Is this like
Was that-
garage sale chic
was that
or something
long
like
distance? Well,
55 cents a minute. Pay up, Dad.
did you dial 1 before you made that call?
I talked to the operator first. Sarah, hook me up to Denise.
It's like, Robert. All right. Backing up just a little bit. Let me say, I have been looking forward to this one for a long time, honestly. Ever since that we started doing this or kind of came up with this, like we want to have internal communication where we can talk about what's going on with the organization, what's up with the organization, what we're up to, what you are up to, all of that. I've always thought, man, it would be fun to sit down with my old buddy Robert and have a conversation of how a lot of this came to be. So first of all, let me introduce, without further ado, Robert Hildreth, who is or was the original founder of SKY HVAC, which was the predecessor to Call Dad. So I don't want to give away too much, but if you'd humor me and just hit who you are, how in the world you got into HVAC, which I know is a long, web of
In the beginning,
experience.
the earth cooled, and organisms organisms on the 8th day, and organisms began to populate the earth. Robert Hildreth, Matt, and thank you. I was looking forward to this too.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday I just met you for the first time, and I cannot believe it's been almost 10 years or something like that, which is hard to believe.
Next January will be 10 years.
Yeah, and again, I'm in awe of what you've done with the business, and of course what you've done with this place. This is really amazing. I think this is where I believe I started, in the basement. It looked probably something like this. I came from.
I have a video I was just showing the other week. It's fixing to get hot.
Whether you like it or not.
And I'm pretty sure there might have been some wood paneling in that room.
Well, it's fixing to get hot, whether you like it or not. Best I can tell, it's getting hotter than hell, and you're sure gonna sweat a lot. Well,
Where you sang that song?
I still fit in the shirt, barely.
All right, sorry. I'll stop interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's good.
How'd you get in the trade?
Yeah, so originally I got in the trade. I was one of these kids who got married very early in life, and I had to make a living and provide for my family. And I went to work for a company that did all kinds of maintenance work in houses, plumbing, electrical, heating, and air conditioning. And somehow I just fell into the heating and air conditioning. I think it was there's a saying, I can't remember who said it, but it's something along the lines of, opportunity exists where responsibility has been abdicated. And as you know, this is a very extremely difficult work and business to run and maintain and to actually do the work. And so I just started off there. It seems like it was a place that there was an opportunity, and so I just landed there. So I was doing service work and installation work and such like that, and then I went to school. I went to training school. I know you guys have a school here now that you run yourselves, which is a brilliant idea. I went to Central Piedmont, which is a community college here in Charlotte. And I got an apprentice, or I guess an associate's degree program there. I went there. Some years after that, I actually taught there, and that was really good. That helped me, I think, be able to communicate a little bit better, how things work, and by speaking them and teaching it, it really helped me out a lot. I worked for a couple different companies, a couple larger companies, and at some point, one of the companies I was working with was about to go out of business, and I just thought, well, I feel like I know enough about this. Maybe I can just do it myself. And so I started just a small-scale company, just myself. And of course, as you know, it didn't take long to need to employ other people and get some help with it, because it is difficult. And it took off really, really fast. And that's kind of where I started.
Now, that was Precision? Was that
Precision Heating and Cooling,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I ran that company from, I guess, 1988 until about 2013 or something like that, when I'd run that for a long time and just made the decision to kind of rebrand it and scale it up, much like you guys did. It was just to bring some new energy into it. I felt like I had kind of done as much as I could, on my own, and I was starting to get a little bit older too, and I was just really kind of tired of managing everything. And, as you know, my personality is such that I'm pretty congenial and friendly and gregarious, and I get along with a lot of people, but I just wasn't a very good businessman. I didn't really know how to shift the gears and move into another place with it.
So what made you want to do it? Like, why were you hopeful that you would be a good businessman, or was like the drive to do it on the other side of be on your own? Like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, what?
No, that's a great question. I feel like, I probably would have been happy to stay, with a company, but there wasn't anybody that I felt like that was doing it really, really well.
Yeah.
And this will go back to, not to blow smoke up your skirt, but this is, one thing I really, admire about you, and you guys have been able to, look at this a little bit differently. I feel like I was just looking at it from the point of view of just the granular part, just the working part of it. I never really worked into the business part of it, and I feel like maybe that's where I maybe struggled a little bit, at first, and that's with Precision, that I was able to manage it, pretty well up to that point. But then it got to where there was just things I didn't know.
It's a weird conundrum, right, where it seems more prevalent in the trades than it does other industries, and I have some theories on this, right? But like, it definitely seems like there's that level of no one can do it as good as I can type mentality that drives a lot of the fragmentation that we see in this industry. It's not shocking that you would say that, right?
Yeah, no, and since you mentioned that, that was part of the change too, was I had gotten so frustrated with hiring people, and I didn't know how to manage people well, and they would come, and I felt like, they would take advantage of me, or they wouldn't, work as hard as I would want them to, or the relationship would just get stale, and I didn't know how to transition from that into becoming, a better boss, or a better business owner, or a better manager, or anything like that. And so eventually, before I rebranded it, I was just primarily working by myself as a one-man operation.
Yeah. So how did Sky come about?
I was in the process of either doing one of two things. I was either going to rebrand and start the company again and rebuild it, trying something different this time, or I was just going to go to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I really didn't, in the conversations I had with other contractors that I would potentially go to work for, nobody really wanted to share any equity or anything like that.
Yeah.
There was just really there would be no movement up. I was just going to go back to being an employee again. And something else about my personality that you may kind of remember, I don't really work well at the bottom of hierarchies. I need to at least have some input into what's going on. And so that's when I shifted those gears and, brought on more people, brought on more competence, people who, understood, they're part of the business better than I did. And that's where that started.
What was your what was your long-term goal?
Oh, I'm still working on that, I think. What is my long-term goal? What do I want to be when I grow up? That's
what was our
question.
Annual plan over the first few years? It was always like, what does Robert want?
That was, yes.
Where does Robert want to be? Outside of Burning Man, where does Robert want to be?
Where to be, yeah. I didn't know, and I got to say the first couple of years were really, really challenging for me, because it was. I mean, I didn't know what I thought. I knew I wanted something different, I am somebody who likes to try new things and do different things and stuff like that, and so I felt like that would be a good platform to do it from.
Yeah. Around comes 2017.
Yes.
Which, again, I don't know what you want to share or not share or all that, but
Mm-hmm.
what ultimately led you to say, all right, I think it's time to sell?
Yeah, I think what I think what I realized at that time was that there was really it had almost come to another plateau. While I was able to manage a larger company, that was doing more volume, and I had several key people in place, I still wasn't seeing that the growth that I had seen with some other larger companies, in some bigger companies in town. Because for years we used to look at those larger companies and think, wow, they're just ripping people off. How do they spend all that money on all these advertisements and everything like that? And but it turns out they weren't doing bad work. They were actually, getting a lot of market penetration and stuff like that. And to be honest, I just like working with smarter people. And when I met you and Mike, I was like, these are young, smart people, and this is an interesting opportunity, to still stay engaged with the company and to be able to, have an exit strategy, which I'd never had before. And that was something that I think that was appealing about that.
It is funny. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, all right? But there's a certain amount of irony where it's like, when you're small, it's always the big guys are trying to rip the customers off because they're overcharging and doing all that. But the reality of a lot of times is it's because they're doing everything by the book,
right?
And they're following the actual process. And not that I want to be clear, not that all small companies don't or anything like that, but usually the bigger the organization, the harder they work to try and at least do the job right. Now, there are exceptions, I want to be clear,
of course.
But for the most part, it's like it's that immediate, like you always think that the big guys are up to something, and the big guys always think the small guys have no clue what they're doing or are causing problems in the marketplace. And it's just this constant weird dichotomy that goes on in the kind of resident, at least on the resident, well, I guess on the new construction side too.
Sure.
In the trades. So it's always weird to see that.
Yeah, well, there's it's interesting. There's a term, and I don't remember where I heard this, but there's certain people that know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And at some point, I think there was, by learning, seeing the value that what a larger organization can put into everything and how they can cover all the bases, when somebody's absent or something like that, or if there's like a gap, there's people there to fill it. Where when you're a smaller company, it seemed like it was always me jumping in to try to fill whatever gap that existed. Yeah. And that just got exhausting.
Do you remember, not day one, because we'll obviously talk about that. But do you remember the first time we met?
Was it at a bar on the plaza?
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was just curious if you remember that day or not. And then Huff came as well, right? Yes. Didn't he come like halfway through? Like we sat down with you for a while, and then Huff came
later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was your perspective? And you're not gonna.
No. It's hard to remember back that far, but I think there was something energetically about you two. These doe-eyed kids.
What is your account number?
7.
7. 7.
What is it about them that seems that's so appealing? And and one thing I got to say, if we're still at day one, that's kind of what I remember about that. But something that I feel like is endearing about you that I remember pretty well is how when you first came on, how you really didn't know anything about the business. You never really done anything. My understanding, as I recall, and I think you spoke to this, is that you got into business because you saw a gap in the service and stuff like that from your own experiences, with a heating and air conditioning problem or something like that. You saw an opportunity, where responsibility had been abdicated, and you saw a marketing opportunity or a business opportunity in that. And so I think there was something about that was really fascinating for me. And then, when you came on, and again, in the early stages, you would actually come and shadow us. You would come around and actually, come to jobs and stuff like that. I remember we were doing some rooftop work at one point in time, and you're up there, up on the roof, and the crane is in, and the equipment's on the ground.
18-volt reciprocating saw.
Right. But you had a genuine interest, and you were really curious about how it was working, and that was, and I think that's where I started to maybe kind of build confidence in, like, this might actually work. I mean, these guys may actually, be able to do something with this that's pretty remarkable, and obviously you have.
Yeah, and that's one thing to throw it back at you is when I first met you, I sensed somebody who was willing to entertain my curiosity, right? Like, a lot of times now I've come across this, not just in this trade, but in a lot of businesses, but like you get in a situation where the person's like, you can't learn what I know, or, dismissive maybe.
Right.
And it was like, you would sit there till 9 o'clock at night and explain refrigeration circuits to me if I wanted to ask questions.
Karate here. Karate here. Karate never here. You understand?
You had appreciation for my curiosity, and to me that was always like, okay, I'm excited to work with this guy because he's willing to entertain my curiosity when other people might be dismissive. And it was the same for Huff too. Like Huff was that mentality of like, he would put me through my own progressions for my own good because he was willing to try and help me grow and try and help me understand the trade. So that's just something, again, that I saw in you, that you noticed the curiosity and you were willing to cultivate it.
Yeah, nice. And
that was a big part of my ultimate decision of why I thought it'd be fun to work together. So,
well, I think as I shared with you, I like inquisitive people, and believe it or not, when I was in camp years and years ago, I guess I was about 10 years old. At the end of the summer camp, they give away awards, to people, the best archer or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, my award was the most inquisitive camper, to which I replied, "What is inquisitive?" I didn't even know. So I think maybe we kind of balanced that. I appreciate that in people because it's so deeply ingrained in me.
Did they explain it, or were they like,
they
we're
laughed.
done with
They
questions
just
for
laughed and say,
camp's over?
Next, best archer, come to the front, Billy.
Best
Exactly.
canoeer. Is canoeing a word? I'm sure
Canoeing, lariat making, or whatever they did. Yeah.
Knot maker.
Not
tire.
Wasn't that one.
And here we have some boondoggle keychains, a must-have for this season's fashion.
Already made like affinity of those at scout camp.
All right, so we're day one. You still have that picture now, Sean. We'll get you this photo because you may have seen this at the company meeting or in one of the side decks, but it's a picture of Mike and I sitting there on this little couch, literally the first day that and Robert snapped this picture of like, look at these dweebs.
That's not what I was thinking at that moment, but it was really cute. It was cute to me, that here these two guys came in and we're doing HVAC work, and y'all are sitting there with laptops open like this. Like this is. And there was a part of me, there was a disconnect about, this is HVAC? What are these guys?
And mind you, this is like January 2017.
Yes.
So this is before like what has been like the trades renaissance and private equity and all this stuff. So the quote unquote vest term didn't exist back then, but you had two,
pioneers, pioneers as it were.
Dweebs.
Right.
Sitting there on a couch with their computers saying, "Teach me HVAC."
It sort of reminded me. Did you ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yes. Yeah.
There's an episode in one of the end ones where Rebecca, I think, she's in a room and they're trying to move all the soccer to another country or something.
Yeah.
There's a guy that wants to spend all this money on it, and she's in there. She's the only woman in the room, and she's looking down and she's thinking about her vote and how she's going to vote. She's going to vote no, and then she pulls her
This
eyes
is when
up.
they're at the lunch table.
They're
or what?
at the conference
Yeah,
table,
yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And she lifts up her head, and every one of the men in the room was a 5-year-old in a little suit.
Yeah.
And their legs are kind of just dangling off the
Yeah.
edge. And she was realizing that all these men are basically they're still their younger selves. They're
Yeah.
still that little 5-year-old boy inside of them.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I'm like, that looks like Matt and Mike the first day when they were in the room. But I've got to say, man, you guys have really you have
I was
you have
hoping for
risen
a
in my
cooler
estimation. Of course.
analogy to Ted Lasso for me than
Yes.
the cynical soccer board.
Right.
But I'll take it.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So, what did you think, man? This is awesome, a great decision, or were you like, oh gosh?
Right. I was like, well,
What is
if it
gonna-
goes south, we're still doing HVAC. I figured it wouldn't change. It wouldn't change that much, but. It slowly. I mean, as you guys began to, sort of ramp it up, and again, it took a little bit of time. I mean, it took some years. You really put the time in. I feel like, methodically, going through it. I mean, again, you guys were sort of early adopters. I feel like, to the VC game, as it were. And again, y'all are definitely smaller scale. I mean, it wasn't like you were buying companies that were, $10, $20 million companies. You were buying, smaller companies, which really was smart, and I see how I love that scale of things, and how kind of like the underdog, can actually win, and get ahead. Yeah.
Were there ever points where you were frustrated?
Yeah, probably. I think in the early stages, I think there were some hires that were made that may not have been, the best ones, that were kind of and they were positions that we had never even had before, and I think, you probably remember maybe some of those that, where people came in and they didn't perform the way they should have. And
I mean, I
that was
joked
a little
about
bit
this
frustrating.
because I read, HVAC Spells Wealth by Ron Smith, and
Familiar
that book was my Bible, and I was like, well, day one, we need this
In the
position,
beginning.
and we need this position, and we
Yes.
need this, and it was like no conceptual understanding. I joke about that a lot, that my misconception of what the makeup of the business was before I got into it.
Right.
And obviously, this, but it was majority new construction, right? But
Good
I
bit.
came in with a playbook of what I thought was more residential retail style business. And it was that slow realization of like, I need to, humbling beyond what I thought was my own curiosity to learn the trade.
Right.
I need to learn the business. I have a lot of business understanding, but I didn't have a lot of business experience. And it was like, I need to learn the business myself before I can come in here and start, projecting and demanding change.
Right. And I think you did a great job of that. I mean, I've got to applaud you for that. I mean, you came in at one time, you used the analogy of filling the gas tanks, like lighting the fire and filling the tanks. And it's like, well, we got to start filling the tanks. So there was something you said about that one time. I'm like, okay, let's fill them, but let's not light this on fire just yet.
There's always matches or lighters involved.
Yes.
I mean, looking back, are there things you wish that I had learned faster or that I had done differently?
No, bro. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you did. I think you did a great job. Like I say, the starting off a little bit faster, maybe than maybe you should have. But you pulled back, and you were wise beyond your years, I think, and by my estimation.
Yeah, I didn't even have gray hair.
Well, hang in there, bro. It's coming. It's coming.
What is happening to me?
See these shades?
It's coming. It's coming.
I'll color correct.
I was gonna say, I'm sure we could get that light. We could get that light fixed.
Blonde.
We'll fix it in post. Sean can fix it.
All right, to explain a few things that audience might not be aware of, but as I said, Sky at that time. Well, first of all, the name Sky.
Yeah.
That was, so if I recall correctly, your partner at the time had a building company named Skyward Building. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you guys
Yeah,
ultimately...
I wanted that. I like
you
Skyward.
like Skyward?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because years ago, my wife and I, we were still dating at the time. We actually took a school bus and converted it into a camper, and then my friend had the company Skyward. Jonathan had a sticker and it said Skyward, and we literally put it on the bus, on the back of the bus. And I always liked that name. And so when he and I talked about forming this company, I was like, what about Skyward? And I think he maybe been a little bit guarded about that name. He's like, what about Sky? And I'm like, Sky's great.
Yeah.
And I think it really worked. I mean, I was a little bit sad, when it went away, to be blunt. But it's I understand I see what you're doing here, and with all this and what's happening, and I think it was probably a good move.
Well, it's funny
Time will
because
tell.
I still thought, like, again, full stop, that Sky was an awesome name. And I was out there because you remember, like, all the logos that I had with the different cities. Like, I had designed these logos where we had the skyline for each market that we were in.
Yeah,
the background.
that's right.
And that was something when we first started talking about rebranding. It was that dynamic of, like,
throw my child away?
What am I going to do with all those awesome logos that I created? I mean, those are some sick logos.
Right.
So there was that dynamic of fighting through what is your baby. Again, clearly not even remotely to the same degree that you had. But I got a little bit of taste of, hey, I put some blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Sure.
And then to see it switch like that. But all right, so mostly new construction. We spun out new construction in 2023.
Yep.
Which is now Air Plus Mechanical. And then we ended up rebranding. You expressed a little bit of sentiment there. What were you like, oh, my name, my baby?
My baby? You threw out my baby. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the bathwater.
The baby with exactly. No, it was, there was, I was a little bit hurt by it, obviously, but
I remember being scared to tell, like, I felt...
You should have been. I should have kicked your ass, but whippersnapper took all my legacy and just cast it aside. Like, all these prizes, son, that you're going to get when I die, these will all be yours.
So were you upset at the time?
Of course. I forgive you. All is forgiven.
Well, thank you.
All is forgiven.
I appreciate that.
He
forgives me. Okay, we're good. That's a wrap. Thanks for coming in, Robert.
Right. And scene. And here we go. Snap.
We got it on tape. We're good.
We got it.
But how long did it take you to come around? What was it that made you come around?
I would say...
Because you send me notes from time to time that's like, hey, this is awesome, or this is well executed. Or,
yeah.
Like, you'll say that to me when I talk, so it feels like you've come.
Well, mostly I would say it was probably about 6 months of psychotherapy and 4 cups of ayahuasca. That probably is what.
So it was the shaman.
The shaman finally healed it, took it from me. And purged it. I purged it one night. No, I do, and so we have like our emotional selves, I guess, and then we have our cerebral and intellectual selves, and I do feel like that every, say, 7 years or something like that, like all our cells in our body allegedly are reconstructed and everything like that. And I think it's really, I love to see movement in things. Sometimes, like, if I want to see, I have things at my house like my kayaks that I haven't been in in years, and I'm like, why am I hanging on to these kayaks? Why do I still keep this skateboard? I'm not going to ride this skateboard. So I think change is good, to be honest with you.
And this is something, like, I got to be honest, when I look back, and I say this a lot in conversation, where it's like, I would never today buy Sky, just because I know now what I didn't see then.
Sure.
Right? Like, unfortunately I've learned the lessons the hard way, right? But there is nothing that you could offer me to change my decision to do it at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, like,
You needed that, though, Matt.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
needed that. We all need. We learn by fire.
Yeah,
That's kind of how it goes.
100%. And it's a weird dynamic because I know that I miss things and there was things I should have saw and things I shouldn't have done and all that. But yeah, I needed that growth. But a long way of saying thank you, because without you and without Mike, like, there's 0% that I wouldn't have been able to learn what I learned and learned it the way that I learned it. So again, I tell you this, but I hope you know it, that I'm just thankful for your willingness to, again, humor me through all of my learnings and all my woes.
Well, I learned. First of all, thank you for those words. I really appreciate that. And I learned as much from you, and I will continue to be a huge advocate of you and what you've got going on, because I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think there's a big need for this kind of thing, and I know what I know to be true about you is that you're someone who does continue to work to improve your systems and your processes and stuff like that. I think it's somebody like James Clear or something who says, you never rise to the level of your aspirations, you only fall to the level of your systems.
Yeah.
And so therefore I think that's something that, you guys work every day on, which is something that's hard to do when you're just in the trenches every day, just trying to get it done, trying to get the work done. So,
yeah. But that's one cool thing. Again, you've always been a cheerleader, and I can't thank you enough for that. All right. When you look at Call Dad today, like, what's one thing that you're like, oh, that's awesome, I'm glad they're doing it, and what's one thing that you'd be like, man,
one thing
Sky did that so much better.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. For sure, you took on plumbing. You and I talked about this in the early stages, and you were like, "Yeah, we're not ready to do that." I mean, I feel like that home maintenance and everything is really it's more inclusive of all the systems in the house than it is just the HVAC. Obviously, the HVAC is a critical part, and so is the plumbing. And plumbing breaks down. I think it has less maintenance and stuff like that than HVAC does, but I think it's critical. And I'm kind of curious to see where you go from here. I mean, if you take on something like, whether it becomes more plumbing or any kind of other structural type things. I mean, I know those are different animals, but that was something I always felt like could be a part of that. So I think that's something I think you're doing really well. What did you take away?
I thought you would have. I honestly would have guessed that you would say the apprenticeship program. Not that I'm trying to get you to change your answer, but I would, because that's the one that you constantly say to me.
Yeah. Well, you should have prompted me if that was.
No. I was just curious what it was. Yeah. And it could be just like what's relevant now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
I
thank you for reminding me. That wasn't the first thing that popped up in my head, but that is really something that I feel like that has to be kind of.
Because you always had a passion about. I mean, you were teaching night classes.
We used to do the.
We used to have the training that
right.
The
EPA training.
Correct.
We did. Yeah.
Correct.
And I enjoyed
you did
that.
all that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really a great idea, because there are so few people that are that are coming into the trades, it seems like.
Yeah.
And then you pretty much have to cultivate them yourself, and I think that's a wonderful idea.
All right, what's one thing you don't like? What's one thing that Sky did better?
Wow. I feel like one thing that Sky did better, it was a little more broader based. We would do new construction, remodeling work, construction type work, commercial type work, and stuff like that. So I feel like that you've focused it. And again, this is where I think, okay, why is he doing that? And you're like, oh no, this is we're doing that for a reason.
I joke. We've joked about this, but it used to always be like, you ask, what does Mike say? Do you know? Do you remember?
Like, get it done.
We do HVAC.
We do HVAC. We do HVAC.
Yeah.
We do HVAC. Right.
And it meant what he meant, for those don't understand what I'm saying. He meant like if it's anything mechanical in nature that has to do with heating, ventilation,
air conditioning.
Yeah, he was like, that's what we do.
Exactly. There's a dark side and a bright side of that too.
Well, the bright side is I wouldn't have learned all the stuff that like the breadth of knowledge that I have because of that approach.
Right. And it could be you learned exactly what.
Correct.
Well, I know we don't want to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes that's more important, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. Advice for those that want to own their own business one day, or like the perspective that you have, like what are some lessons learned or some don't do this type of feedback that or wisdom that you could bestow?
Yeah. No, I would say if you're a younger person and you're just getting into the trade, work for a company that does a lot of work. That's a busy shop, and get as much experience as you can. If you are somebody who thinks you might want to go into business for yourself, definitely learn about business. Get friends who are in legal, get friends who are in accounting. Maybe specialize, really niche in, to your market, like you guys have done. I think that's fantastic. And I do think there's a lot of room in this business too. And I do a lot of social media perusing myself more than I really want to admit.
Yeah.
And there's a Facebook group that I'm a part of. It's called One Man in a Van, and it's a lot about little small companies and stuff like that. And I feel like I kind of watch the trials and tribulations that those guys are going through, and they're kind of the same ones that I had. So I feel like I can lend a lot of advice to people like that. But I would say there's really two spaces in it. It's kind of, you can be a micro company, real small, and have like a broad base of we do HVAC, and you can do a lot of things, but know that you're going to be doing a lot of those things on your own, and you're going to have to be the spear point for all those, for much of that, and that's fine. You can actually do that and do pretty well. I feel like this could be there's opportunities here for a lot of people maybe who are retired, who maybe come from larger places and stuff like that, and want to just do some maintenance or something like that, or not handle so much, and almost like as a part-time job or something like that. But it's easy on a small scale, it's easy on a large scale with a big team, but in the middle, man, that can be a little bit rough.
Yeah, I think the one thing, it does. The only thing that I would add, just based on my observations looking back, is like you can't work yourself into a business. Meaning like you can't go out in the field and solve all the problems that you think you have. Like, unfortunately, if you're getting into business, like there's a decent amount of problems that exist in a chair behind a desk.
Yes, and you can't fix those from the front seat of a truck.
Correct. And what I'm going to put myself in a decade, I think I'm close to being able to say a tradesperson.
Okay.
Damn it, I tried.
Honorary.
I was trying to get his approval again.
Honorary tradesperson.
It's like too often, or more often than not, we think we can brute force, solutions, especially solutions in business. And sometimes you can't solve it that way.
You can be the greatest service tech and everybody can love you and like you. That does not mean that you're going to be successful in business. I think one of the first books you had me read when you guys came on was The E-Myth.
Yeah.
And that was something my wife had been trying to encourage me to read. You should read this book. You should read this book. I'm like, but when Matt tells me, then I'm going to read it. And it's very true. What is in there is very true. There's technicians, and then there's so much more. It's almost as if whatever the training you did and learning you did to become a really fantastic tech or installer, you're going to have to do that same amount of training to become a reasonable to good business person.
Yeah.
And those things kind of they live separately, but they live together.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. This one I probably should have prepped you to, but you can take a second.
I can take it
if you want. All right, go back to that day where I'm sitting on that couch
with your little legs dangling up.
Yeah, and my little laptop, little PC.
You were playing Tetris or something.
What would you say to that guy? Like, what would you see now? What I've been through. The goals that I've set, what I've tried to achieve, why I'm trying to achieve it, that sort of stuff. Like, what would you say to that guy in January of 2017?
Couple things. I mean,
no, you only get one.
Okay.
And it has to be 7 syllables. No, I'm
joking. Haiku. Can I do it in haiku?
Only in haiku form. Haikus are fun, but sometimes they don't make sense.
Yeah, from sitting in this chair, I would tell you, you're going to do great. But if I was sitting in that chair then, it'd be like, you better hang on.
Yeah.
You better hang on. And you have. And that's a damn
maybe
admirable.
that's why it worked, because I was, ignorant to the amount of work that it would take.
But don't we kind of have to be a little bit ignorant to those things? I mean, you're a father of 3 children. You know, sitting in that chair right now. What would you tell yourself going back in there? It's like, oh, are you kidding me?
Well, yeah, my wife was, I guess at that point, she was 4 months pregnant with our third kid.
With the third, right.
Yeah.
Right.
And here I am.
What have I done? But you know what, Matt?
So hang on would be your
hang on. And you know this to be true. I mean, meaning in life and things that are important only come through the hardships that we kind of set up for ourselves. And you know, I mean, I wouldn't, looking back on it, I wouldn't trade a minute of it. You know, I mean, there were moments when I was like in a meltdown. I mean, you remember that, you know, and something else. And let me just speak to this too. When we went into COVID, and I was still with you guys, you know, everybody was freaking out, and there were words that you said. We were in a meeting, and some of the words you said is like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you're just like, we're going to just keep going. We're going to keep doing HVAC. And it's like, I don't know if you said HVAC, but that's more.
I say HVAC.
HVAC, yeah. We're going to keep working. It's like, he's right, you know, because there was this moment of like the world is turning upside down and what's going to happen, and you know, those turned out to be some really good years. I mean, you know, as we can all look back on and see,
years for us.
For sure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, man, I mean it when I say I love you.
I love you too, brother.
You've been a brother for years and years.
Brothers from other mothers. Yes. And we hung on. And now there's a fish on the wall.
We didn't get to point this out, but you got, I don't know, Sean, if you got a close-up of this shirt or not, but rocking, the original Mechanics Blue.
Oh, man.
Sky HVAC.
Now I'm going to get a little weepy, and there's not a tissue here.
You know, because
I'll wipe my tears with this drill.
Because only real mechanics wear blue, right?
Right, it covers the grease.
Right, come on.
Look
at this upgrade.
It covers the relish. It covers the relish of the hot dogs when you're in your van, because you don't have time to stop and eat a proper lunch.
Yeah, the blue and mustard tend to go together pretty
They
good.
pair nicely together. This actually pairs nicely with the salmon. Is that what that is, or is it salmon?
Yeah, don't question. It's salmon. Salmon.
Our bodysuits were that color.
I wouldn't dare. Bodysuits. Is that gonna be the next upgrade? Oh, I like the mustard pants too. Those are really nice.
Yeah, thanks. I like these.
Claudette socks. Oh, dude, I'm not leaving this chair until I get a pair of those.
Yeah, from the shoes.
I'm not leaving.
Oh, I do have Claudette shoes.
For
the
real?
Kicks, yeah. And
are they like Vans? Or they got to be slip-ons. I mean,
I'll show them to you right now.
That.
No, I'll show them.
Okay.
They're pretty sweet. All right. Thank you all.
Matt, that was great. Are we done?
All right, we're good, man. Appreciate you coming in. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate your time. What?
Robert, is that you?
Hey.
I was waiting for you.
No, yeah. Yeah, no, I love you. I love you too. I'm not hanging up.
Hardly working.
No, I had to do this thing. It's done now.
I see. So you're free now.
I'll be home later.
You know how much I love you.
Yeah, I love you too.
But you kept me hanging for so long.
No, come on.
Yo.